Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, March 31st. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. On this Cesar Chavez holiday, many people out and about enjoying spring break crowds and the warm weather. Thousands also using the day to get vaccinated. As of tomorrow, 400,000 more San Diegans are becoming eligible. KPBS reporter John Carroll begins our coverage.
It's been the big issue when it comes to getting a COVID-19 vaccine for months now. Plenty of places to get one, not enough supply. On Thursday, a lot more strain is going to be put on the supply when San Diegans 50 and older, hundreds of thousands of them, become eligible.
I'm very excited.
Scripps Chief Medical Officer Dr. Godzilla Sharif is excited that more people will soon be able to get vaccinated, but her excitement is very much tempered by worry.
We still don't know. In fact, right before you called on me, I pinged the county to say, hey, do we even know how many doses we're going to get for next week? Because it's still a weekly thing.
And that makes it very difficult to do any planning. For Sharif and her team, it's meant having to close the Del Mar site Scripps runs a number of times. The supply issue was supposed to be solved by having Blue Shield take over the state's My Turn system, but that was weeks ago, and the problems persist.
Just this week, they overscheduled another 800 patients, so it's fraught with issues.
It's Cesar Chavez Day, so no one at the county was available to talk to us, but Supervisors Nathan Fletcher and Nora Vargas have said continually the infrastructure is in place to administer a lot more vaccines. But like the healthcare providers giving the shots, the county is also at the mercy of the state and federal government when it comes to supply. Through it all, the county has placed an emphasis on equity, getting the vaccines to communities hit hard by the pandemic. That's led to the opening of places like this, a distribution site at the Sherman Heights Community Center. People started lining up here hours before the facility opened at 9:30 this morning. It's just about 12:30 now, and as you can see, the line still stretches down around the block. A security guard told me folks are waiting for up to 4 hours to get their shot. This is a no appointment needed walk-up site with one big catch. If you want to get a vaccine here, you have to live in either the 92113 or 92102 zip code. 300 doses a day are being given here. But as well-intentioned as it is, Dr. Sharif says there's a problem with the county's approach.
We have been getting limited doses. Frankly, from what I've been told, is because the zip code isn't right. And I understand the equity reasons, but people have been driving all the way from Oceanside to Petco Park, Carlsbad, all the way to East County to get their vaccines. And so just looking at the zip code where the site is doesn't make a lot of sense.
Another jolt to the supply chain will come on April 15th when eligibility opens up to anyone 16 and older. So as much as we all want to get back to a sense of normalcy, the saga of COVID-19 still has a ways to go. John Carroll, KPBS News.
And Pfizer has some promising news when it comes to the COVID-19 vaccine and kids. The company says its trials show 100% efficacy for those aged 12 to 15. More than 1,000 kids were tested. Pfizer also says the group tolerated the doses well when it comes to side effects. The next step for Pfizer is to submit its results to the FDA to expand its emergency use authorization. And right now, the vaccine is only approved for people aged 16 and older. Another 250 more migrant girls will join the others today at the San Diego Convention Center. We've also learned the number of COVID cases has climbed again, and now it is at 87. A special section has been set up to keep those affected apart from the others. With the new arrivals, there is now close to 1,000 teen girls there. The shelter can hold up to 1,450 minors. The VA is expanding the number of veterans eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says the local VA has an ambitious goal of getting shots to anyone who wants them within 90 days.
For veterans, the fastest route to getting vaccinated may be going through the local VA, according to Dr. Robert Smith, the head of the San Diego VA.
You call up the VA, how fast am I going to get a shot?
We can probably get you in within the next 24 to 72 hours. We have slots that are available. We do this by appointment, but all of our slots every day are typically not filled. They do get filled at the last minute, so sometimes it might not be the same day.
The VA has seen its supply of the vaccine steadily increase. A new law also allows the VA to vaccinate all veterans, spouses, and their caregivers.
That we'll be able to get 100% of the veterans who want to be vaccinated within the next 90 days. That's my target.
Smith says the national VA decided not to relay vaccination information directly to state and county officials. The lack of data means the VA also doesn't know how many of its veterans have received the vaccine outside the VA.
Our own internal numbers show that we have reached 55% of older age groups of veterans, and actually about 40% of veterans between ages 50 and 74. And I think those numbers are underestimates of what actually may have happened.
The next step is addressing vaccine hesitancy among veterans. Smith says the VA has seen people delay getting the vaccine.
The reality is that this is an extremely effective vaccine that in real world experiences is showing that it is preventing hospitalizations and saving lives.
About 50,000 shots have been given out by the San Diego VA since the vaccine became available. Last week, the VA went 6 days without a COVID patient. Right now, there are 2 veterans in the hospital with the disease. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Our vaccine situation is often changing from locations to supply. KPBS has you covered. Click on the vaccines link on our homepage to find a section dedicated to providing the latest details. You can also see our progress in getting San Diego County vaccinated at kpbs.org. While many San Diegans celebrated Cesar Chavez Day relaxing and enjoying the warm weather, some took time to honor the legendary labor leader with a day of service. KPBS reporter Melissa May tells us about the event.
The project was a mural at the Delta Apartments in the Shelltown neighborhood of San Diego. Veronica Macedo is the Chicano Federation's Director of Development and Community Relations.
He was a person that did everything for his community, so we wanted to come into the community and do something for this neighborhood.
The day's work also included a gardening project. Mercado says both efforts spoke to the heart of Chavez's mission.
He was very pro-community. He always wanted to serve his community, and he had a really big impact, specifically in the Hispanic community.
Joining the Chicano Federation on Wednesday were members of the San Diego Loyal, the city's professional soccer team. U.S. soccer star Landon Donovan, who is the Loyal manager, participated in the event.
We want to connect to this community in a real way. We want to be committed to the community in a real way, just like the Chicano Federation is. And ultimately, we want to build camaraderie. And you do that by donating your time.
Chavez, along with Dolores Huerta, founded the United Farm Workers Union in the early 1960s. Donovan says the Loyal and the Chicano Federation share similar values to each other and what Chavez stood for.
To go out and promote values of equality and respect for all people.
Melissa May, KPBS News.
Electric scooters are returning to San Diego streets after many companies pulled the devices at the onset of the pandemic. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen looks at what changes could be on the horizon.
6 scooter-sharing companies are now authorized to operate in San Diego, and a few are brand new, hoping to capitalize on the city's gradual reopening. Colin Parent is executive director of the mobility advocacy group Circulate San Diego. He says the city's relatively lax regulations have made the scooter market hyper-competitive, leading to several companies coming and going.
And so I think one of the things that the city is going to have to examine is doing some sort of a request for proposal to have a limited number of scooters and have a more regulated market so that it's more functional and permanent.
Scooter sharing companies are mostly staging their devices around downtown, Hillcrest, and Pacific Beach. But advocates for low-income communities say they should benefit from the devices as well.
And they really provide communities like City Heights, Southeast, other communities like that, community access to everyday destinations. And so But also that comes into safety as well. You know, like bikes, scooters should be in protected bike lanes, spaces where people feel comfortable.
The City Council passed scooter regulations almost 2 years ago and plans on reevaluating their effectiveness later this year. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Citing the uncertainty about the safety of large-scale public events, San Diego Pride celebrations are going mostly virtual again. The July events draw thousands of people to celebrate and support the region's LGBTQ community. Further details regarding virtual and limited capacity in-person events will be announced in early June. Pride events nationwide mark the anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising in New York, a series of protests that followed a police raid on a gay bar called the Stonewall Inn in June of 1969. Padres fans have waited more than 550 days to see a game at Petco Park, and now they only have to wait one more. Tomorrow, the team begins its 2021 regular season. Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, and some big-name off-season additions are expected to be one of the best teams in baseball this year, with a shot at returning to the playoffs. The crowd will be limited to 20% capacity. Some COVID safety precautions include touchless ordering food and a no-bag policy. And this will be an opening day unlike any other, not just for the Padres. Karen Kaifa has a closer look at some of the changes this year across Major League Baseball.
Major League Baseball opening what they hope is a 162-game regular season on Thursday after the COVID-abbreviated season in 2020. And with the pandemic still a concern, MLB still has health and safety protocols in place for all 30 of its clubs and has been working with them to help them safely welcome fans back to the stands. Yes, fans can come out to the ballpark in 2021, but just how many is going to depend on where you are. Teams have been working with MLB as well as their own public health and medical experts to create safe experiences. Here at Nationals Park, the District of Columbia says the Nats can welcome a max of 5,000 fans for their opening series against the New York Mets. In addition to required face coverings, concessions will be cashless and fans will be seated in pods of no more than 6 people, among other precautions. When the Mets go home to New York next week, Citi Field will be capped at 20% capacity, or about 8,500 fans, and fans will be required to show proof of a negative COVID test or full vaccination. Down in Dallas, the Texas Rangers will play their home opener before a full capacity crowd, though after that they'll offer a limited number of distanced seating sections. Major League Baseball is also strongly encouraging players to get vaccinated. On Monday, the league and the Players Union informed clubs they'll relax certain safety protocols if certain vaccination thresholds are met, according to a source with knowledge of the agreement, maybe allowing them to reintroduce locker room amenities like saunas, whirlpools, and pool tables. Of course, a number of MLB parks have served as mass vaccination sites, including Fenway Park in Boston and Yankee Stadium in Citi Field in New York, and Dodger Stadium out in Los Angeles, previously one of the largest coronavirus testing sites in the entire country. And the Dodgers come into the spring as the champions of that 2020 shortened season. The Nationals were the World Series champions during the last full season played in 2019. Fans from the West to here in the East eager for this sign of spring and maybe a little normalcy. At Nationals Park in Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
Another big sports headline: the Super Bowl is returning to Southern California. LA SoFi Stadium, the home of the Rams and Chargers, will host the big game on February 13th, and it will be the first time the NFL has hosted a Super Bowl in Southern California since San Diego's Qualcomm Stadium hosted in 2003. The last Super Bowl in the LA area was at Pasadena's Rose Bowl back in 1993. A case heard today at the U.S. Supreme Court will have an impact on student athletes here and across the country. A group of athletes are suing the NCAA, arguing its rules on financial compensation violate antitrust laws. A lower court agreed, but the NCAA wants the Supreme Court to weigh in. The issue is whether there should be caps on education-related benefits. The NCAA says eliminating caps would effectively end its system of amateurism. A ruling is expected later this year. 15 years in prison, that's the sentence given today to San Diego businesswoman Gina Champion Kane. She pleaded guilty last year to federal charges stemming from a nearly $400 million Ponzi scheme. The well-known real estate magnate and restaurateur took investor funds intended as loans for liquor licenses and then funneled the money into her companies and for personal purchases. It's day 3 in the murder trial of a Minneapolis cop accused of murdering George Floyd, and today the witness testimony focused on what happened before police arrived. Camila Bernal wraps up today's developments.
In day 3 of testimony,
I'm claustrophobic, man. Working with me. God, I'm claustrophobic, man.
New body cam footage of George Floyd's arrest. And a man who witnessed it breaks down on the stand. Earlier, never-before-seen surveillance video of George Floyd inside Cup Foods. The footage shows store cashier Christopher Martin accepting a $20 bill while selling Floyd a pack of cigarettes.
When I saw the bill, I noticed that it had a blue pigment to it, so I assumed that it was fake.
Twice, Martin says he went to the SUV that Floyd was sitting in, trying to get Floyd back inside the store to discuss the possibly counterfeit bill, but says Floyd would not come back in. That led to a call to police. A short time later, Martin testified there was a commotion outside the store. He went back outside and saw Floyd motionless with Chauvin's knee on his neck.
What was going through your mind during that time period?
Disbelief and guilt.
Okay. Why guilt?
If I would have just not taken the bill, this could have been avoided.
In cross-examination, the defense focusing on Floyd's behavior inside the store.
He was delayed in his speech, and you believed him to be under the influence of something.
Correct.
Camila Bernal, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, President Biden unveils a massive infrastructure package with a $2 trillion price tag. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
It's well known that gang life is not easy, and it often leads to jail time, substance abuse, and even death. Tonight, KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne looks at how one organization is helping at-risk youth overcome their involvement.
Sandra Mora grew up surrounded by gangs, drugs, and an unstable home.
I didn't have nobody there, so I ended up turning into gangs. And everything that I was looking for at home, I found it in the streets. I'm a recovering addict. I started using drugs when I was 13. I had some traumatic experience when I was growing up at the age of 8. And it just skyrocketed from there.
At 21, Mora went to prison. She says prison and letting her family down were the turning points to her turbulent life.
I just, it was time to change my life around.
Mora, now 45 years old, chose to give back to the community she grew up in. She is studying drug and alcohol counseling at Palomar College and expects to graduate in the next 2 years. Mora is also a mentor for Resilience, a nonprofit organization helping at-risk North County youth on probation or leaving juvenile detention.
I love it. I'm able to give back to the community, and I can relate to all the kids that I've came across, from them not having the support at home or their parents are doing drugs.
19-year-old Aki Del Rio is one of Mora's mentees.
Well, my whole family's gang-related from different gangs in Oceanside. So I just kind of grew up around that type of stuff. Like my dad, he was a gang member. He died when I was in first grade. He was killed by Oceanside Police Department. I grew up in foster homes and stuff. My mom was a drug addict. I bounced from house to house.
When Del Rio was in juvenile hall, Resilience reached out to him to connect him with a mentor. Del Rio had been through similar programs before.
Like most people I've seen, they always have an agenda, you know what I mean? Either it's just to get finished with you so they can move on to the next person, just to make their money, blah, blah, blah.
But he saw a difference in Resilience.
But with these people right here, it's real genuine and stuff, and everything they do is out of the bottom of their heart and stuff, you know what I mean?
All of the mentors in Resilience have a past gang affiliation or have been to prison, helping them bond with their mentees.
I don't want to see this kid go back to jail. He's so smart. They have so much potential, and you see it. And that's part of about being a mentor, that you got to remind them, that they're worthy of living a different lifestyle.
Robert Coble is a Resilience mentor. He says part of his job is showing his students there is more to life than the four corners of the city they grew up in.
took them to be able to do things that they've never done, fishing trips, kid who's never been on a boat. Those type of experiences we deal with every day.
Resilience guides their youth in a variety of ways, from field trips and exercising together to regular meetings, helping with college enrollment and attending court hearings. And they provide mentees someone they can trust.
For me, my job is to try to make the ones who are going in and out of jail and are comfortable with that be uncomfortable when they go back, because they experience a lot more than life has to offer.
Mentors say their job never ends, and it can go as far as taking phone calls in the middle of the night to save a mentee from making a bad choice.
I've stayed on the phone with one of my girls for like almost 2 hours. You know, just talking, laughing, just trying to get her out of that state of mind, you know what I mean, where she wants to take the bracelet off that she has because she's on probation, or, you know, she wants to go get high or drink, or, you know, something that's going to eventually get her caught up and go back.
Del Rio has graduated from the program with no plans to go back to his old life. He hopes to join the Army at the end of the year.
The program, man, it just did a lot for me. Like, got me out probation, got me to colleges, you know, it just so many opportunities they've blessed me with, you know, it's got me to the point where I'm at now, you know.
And while he explores his opportunities, he also returns to Resilience to mentor other youth that are going through what he did and showing them how resilient they can be. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
This warmer weather, coupled with the Santa Ana winds, is a reminder about fire danger. And with that, Governor Newsom has announced over $80 million in emergency funds. Following last year's record-breaking fire season, Newsom is adding 1,400 firefighters statewide. It's going to stay warm all week. Mark Mancuso has your forecast.
Warm weather continues here and generally dry conditions. Temperatures will be above average right through the end of the week, and the heat will start to spread its way inland and into the deserts over the next couple of days. There will be a weak upper low passing by on Thursday. Not much moisture with it, mainly clouds here, maybe a sprinkle or an isolated thunderstorm in some of the mountains. Here's a look at our temperatures tonight. 59 the low, San Diego. 56 Ramona, El Cajon 57, and we'll dip down about 54 in Borrego Springs and Campo, so not bad. And for the day on Thursday, well, we see late spring heat spreading into the inland areas, and with a weak upper low coming by, that'll start to throw some clouds at us. But look at these temperatures. Ooh, we're up to 90 in El Cajon, 87 Ramona, Escondido's at 88, Oceanside hit 79, and San Diego is at 80. Now, here's the future cast. And notice there's not any real significant precipitation with this weak trough moving through. Just some clouds around. There may be a sprinkle in some of the mountains and maybe a stray lightning hit or two. That weak system will move eastward on Friday, and it should be pretty hot in the desert areas. Here's our extended forecast. Quite warm on Thursday, but the temperatures will trend down a little bit. Real significant cooling doesn't really come back until Monday of next week. Inland section, so the heat's on Thursday, and it stays very warm into the weekend. Monday, a little bit cooler there. And as we check out the mountains for you, plenty of sunshine is expected later in the week. And we'll be looking at temperatures hovering close to 60 degrees. And in the deserts, you can see it's getting really hot here over the weekend. Not as warm on Monday. And for KBBS News, I am meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
And if you're actually looking for a place to cool off, local movie theaters are open at 25% capacity. KPBS cinema junkie Beth Accomando says Godzilla vs. Kong, with giant monsters facing off, may be exactly the type of film to draw people out of their homes.
Okay, let me just begin by saying that the very premise of this film is problematic for me, because Godzilla and Kong are my two all-time favorite cinema creatures. There's no way I could pick between them. It'd be like asking a parent to choose which child gets to pummel a sibling into submission. But Hollywood thinks having two A-list movie monsters duke it out will sell more tickets than having them just be buddies, like in an 80s action film.
We need Kong. The world needs him.
Right, but this is Godzilla's franchise. Although Godzilla gets top billing, Kong, who's an American creation and looks more human, gets more screen time and is made more empathetic. To the film's credit, it does resolve, at least sort of, the taking sides issue. It thankfully reduces the presence of annoying human characters, and it serves up some genuinely impressive scale for the monsters. Hollywood may still not quite get what makes a Godzilla movie work, at least not in the same way that Japan's Toho Studios has been demonstrating for decades. But as a film to draw us out of our pandemic home theaters, Godzilla vs. Kong certainly has epic appeal. Godzilla vs. Kong opens today, and Reading Cinemas has what it calls a buyout, where you can rent one of the smaller theaters for just $170 to hold a private screening for you and 19 friends, if that makes you feel any more comfortable about venturing out into a cinema.
Who are you? I'm nobody.
Another recent release that may not need a big screen is Nobody, an action film that riffs on John Wick by borrowing a similar plot line, but featuring Bob Odenkirk as the unlikely hero.
I'm gonna mess you up.
The film strains to create a parallel plot to set the violent action in motion, and it lacks the lean, mean elegance of John Wick. But some of the action is fun, and Odenkirk is always enjoyable. But this one is perfectly fine to stream at home. Like Mondo, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.